This is a Fleet Success Show, dedicated to helping you and your fleet succeed using the experience of fleet professionals and Hall of Fame fleet legends. The show that explores how the pillars of stakeholder satisfaction, intentional culture, resource efficiency, and risk management all combine to lead your fleet to success. We're glad you're here. Now, let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fleet Success Show. I am your host today, Marc Canton. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the industry almost 30 years. Running fleets at Fordham University and in the New York area, and then, of course, as a consultant. And most of you know I love fleet data. I am joined today by my friends, colleagues, mentors, inspirations at different points, for sure. Steve Saltzgiver and Scott Rood. Steve, I think pretty much everyone who listens to this show knows who you are. But, state of Georgia, state of Utah, vice president of Coke, vice president of Republic, like maybe 15 or 20 cities, no, not literally. 100 best judge, yep. And Hall of Famer. And now something recently
just got appointed as a fellow for NAFA. It's a new program.
Oh, cool.
It's a mentoring program.
Excellent.
Should be a good opportunity.
So, I would sign up for that if I'm a young professional, for sure. And then, of course, Scott Rood, also 100 best judge. Let's see, you were in the military, in the Air Force, then you went at the state of Washington, and then you were in a utility that was also in Washington, I believe, right? And then you did public works was that Clark County?
Yep.
All right. And then also went into consulting like the rest of us.
That's correct.
Is that more than my? Yeah. And then you also got another honor recently, right?
I did. Recently, I was put on the NAFA Educational Committee, so that's new to me. Looking forward to it. We got several meetings coming up, and I think we're gonna have a great year in the committee.
Yeah, cool. So this is why I have you guys on. You both have long storied careers. We got the Fleet Whisperer here. No doubt, future Hall of Fame. Are you ready in the Hall of Fame? Because if not,
yet.
You will
I'm on
be.
the ballot. I was on the ballot.
You was on the ballot this year.
Yeah.
I have anyone who knows the industry has no doubt you'll be there at some point sooner than later. If you guys have been listening to the show or reading my LinkedIn post, there's been this topic that's been itching at me. I was at NAFA. You guys were at NAFA. It was a great event. I'm blessed to have gone to a lot of shows. I think they're extremely valuable. I'm kind of building a little philosophy here around something around maybe you need a general, everyone should go to like a general show around maybe NAFA, which is kind of industry wide, and then maybe also go to something that's somehow specific to your needs, right? Maybe it's those Florida fleets clearly deal with a specific set of issues with the hurricanes and whatnot. Maybe they should be involved with FLAGFA. Maybe you're a work truck manager. You should be getting NTEA, right? And there's all other kinds of specializations, right? Transit and school bus, and it goes on and on and on, and trucking. And I think that probably a decent sort of self-development program or professional development program includes going to at least 2 of these shows a year for networking, for education, et cetera, et cetera. How's the premise of my theorem so far? You guys?
Actually, I totally agree with it.
Yep.
It's something I've done throughout my whole career.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know if there's another education mechanism that you could use, actually.
Yeah. In our industry, that's part of the problem, right? Yeah. There's no degrees or...
Well, I saw your recent post. If you're working at an organization and they're not letting you go to any of these, maybe you should think about leaving.
Right. So that's what I wanted to get into with you guys. You guys you've stopped, it's not that you're not loyal. You've had several stops where you were there for many years. Others were quicker. And I kind of want to get into it because it's something that some younger fleet people, again, I think a lot of fleet people go through this frustration in their career. I loved Fordham. I go Rams. I have no regrets at all about the time I spent there. When it was time to leave, it was leave. I spent 20 years there. Some folks, maybe that situation looks very, very different, right? So I kind of wanted to get in, especially not only for the young professionals, really even for the seasoned professionals, because there are folks who are probably mirrored in an organization that is either toxic or just not as good as it could or should be. And I want to dig into that with you guys. How do we know? So here's the topic of the day. How do you know when it's time to go? When should you leave an organization? What are some indicators maybe? Or
I can start. I was in the military for 22 years. So when it came time to leave the military, when I was going to leave was always a question because, I love being in the Air Force. So leaving was kind of difficult for me. But on my 21st year, I was deployed to Saudi Arabia. When I left to go to Saudi Arabia, I was in a transportation squadron. 6 months later, when I came back, it changed over to Logistics Readiness Center. Whole new concept and everything. We still maintained vehicles and everything, but the leadership changed, in my opinion, not for the good.
Right.
So at that point, that's when I decided to go ahead and put in my retirement and leave the Air Force. Now, when I was with the state of Washington...
Wait, let me pause you there. So the takeaway there is, if you don't believe in your leadership, that could be an indicator to go. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
The state of Washington, I came in. It was a small shop. Loved working there, but I wanted more. I wanted a challenge. So that's why I left the state of Washington to go into the utility business.
Okay. All right.
Because I wanted to move up.
So if you don't feel challenged in your work, that might be an indicator that it's time to go.
Correct.
All right. Okay. Steve, give us a couple.
Actually, it's common themes. I worked at Utah Transit Authority for 15 years. Thought I would end my career there. I thought that was good, where I was going to retire. In the 15th year, there were some leadership issues that I didn't agree with things. And I came home one day, have a wife, 5 kids, and car payments and house payments, and said, "I quit today, dear." Mm-hmm. She said, "What?" So that was kind of a real catalyst in my life. It actually turned out to be an interesting thing that propelled me to my career now today.
Right.
But long story short, I had a supervisor there that I just could not get along with. I had chosen to go back on the graveyard shift and go back to school to get my bachelor's degree and things. And that was like intimidating to this guy. And he made my life a living hell, essentially. And so I finally got to the point where I said, this isn't worth it. I'm not having fun here at work anymore.
Right.
And if you know me, I love fleet, and I didn't want to leave, but I decided to leave. The irony of all this is, after I walked out and left, I gave him 2 weeks notice, but after I did that, the general manager of Utah Transit Authority called me into his office and wanted to know what the hell I was doing. And I just simply said, it's just time for me to leave. Mm-hmm. I didn't throw anybody under the bus. I just left. I went on with my life. The next year after that was a little bit difficult because I had house payments and car payments, and I had to find a job.
Right.
Interestingly, I sold cars for a whole year at a dealership and had a really
no, I'm not kidding.
I actually had a very successful car dealership thing and kept the family afloat and did some things. Sure. Long story short, then I got hired as a fleet manager for a city. That's where I started really doing fleet management. So that was, same thing Scott went through, leadership issues.
Well, let me pause you there too, because you also said something else. Josh likes to talk about this. It sounds like you were not, like you said, you weren't enjoying going to work anymore.
Yep.
Right. So Josh talks about, if you got that icky feeling on Monday mornings and you're dreading the week, that might be a good sign.
Yeah, that kind of happened to me when I was at the county I worked for. It just, again, it was a leadership change.
Right.
Just wasn't
now,
happy doing that.
So let's pause. Let's dig into that a little bit, guys, just because I don't think the message we want to give to the audience is every time there's a leadership change means you should leave, right?
Yep.
Or every time there's a conflict, right? So, some conflict is good and it's healthy. So somewhere in there's like a line or a balance. I mean, what I hear you guys describing is you just could not stand these folks, or you just thought they were completely incompetent or something like that. It was extreme. Is that fair? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I also don't want people to leave every time their boss, ticks them off because they asked them for something short notice or something of that nature, right? Does that make sense, that balance?
I think in my case, it was really a combination of things.
Okay.
And probably mostly a lack of communication from our leadership.
Okay.
In fact, when the general manager of the company called in, he was the head of the company, and he called me in. He flat out told me, he said, "I can't believe you're leaving. I had you on a career ladder to become the superintendent of maintenance."
Right.
And I said, "Well, that's great, but nobody ever told me that."
Right.
Right. So, I mean,
might have influenced your decision.
Would have been nice to have a career ladder in place or something, so I had some idea that was going to happen or could possibly happen.
Right.
I mean, the irony of all of this is it turned out to be the time for me to leave anyway.
Yeah.
My career propelled from there.
Right.
So I don't look back on any regret or anything. And the person that was giving me trouble, I found out later, didn't even know it. I mean, literally.
You've told that story. I've heard that.
He literally didn't even know it.
He had no idea he was the
Actually
problem.
came to me for a job later on in his career. So
right.
Those kind of things happen, and, you just have to move on. I think in your bones when it's time to go.
Another key takeaway from that story is avoid burning bridges.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't kind of know how things are going to turn around.
No, I still would talk to people over there.
Yeah.
This many years later. So
Yeah. You were going to say something.
No, I was going to, it wasn't the fact that I was upset with the manager. It was a change in leadership.
Right.
The reason I left the county was Steve. Me and Steve had a conversation. He did a study for the county.
Okay.
I called him for some information. And
The county folks, if you're listening, blame Steve for Scott.
so, me and Steve got to talking, and there was a position coming open in Mercury. And, me and Steve talked about it. And about 45 minutes later, the president of Mercury is sending me an email saying, looking forward to see your resume. So,
Right.
it was just an opportunity.
that you didn't want to pass on.
Exactly.
So in that case, it really didn't have much to do with leaving the old place.
Right. It just made the decision easier.
It's the new place.
Yeah.
And I will admit, for me, that was the major reason I wanted to get. There was two reasons I wanted to get into consulting. One was the challenge of it, and talking to Steve, and he had a very similar conversation, I think, with me. I think the challenge of it was a really, really big piece. So, I had done really, really well in my small little world, and I wanted to know, hey, am I a big fish in a little pond, or is the stuff I'm doing here actually legit and
Right.
could impact the industry potentially, right? And I'm glad to say, for the most part, it did.
So there's another common thing we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Steve got you over here.
yeah.
So that's who you know and where you go.
Yeah,
Right?
well, networking. And that's back to the conference stuff,
Right.
which I still want to come back around to. Not that we met through conference, but that's an element there.
Actually, I'm here because I met Josh Turley at a conference.
There you go. Right.
Yeah,
so now all the bosses are going to say, I'm not sending my fleet people to conferences because I don't want to lose them. I mean, it's not like you move every time you attend the conference, so don't get the wrong impression.
No, Steve did. Actually, I know Steve for about 20 years. And
Right.
he did a study for me at the state of Washington as well. So it was really nice to see him come back and do the study in 17. But at the time Mercury came in 2000, I think it was 4 or 5 to do the state of Washington, I was like, I really want to work for that company someday.
Right.
So
But there's this, and I think you can probably share this. I think you too. There was a second reason why I wanted to do it. So one was the challenge, right? And to kind of test myself, right? But there was another piece, which was I love to learn. And I just felt like in that position in particular, wow, how cool is this? I'm going to be able to travel maybe the world, but certainly the country and North America, and see fleets in school and transportation and higher ed and federal government and state government and city government and county government and private fleets and vocational fleets and, big box trucks and trucking and get exposure to all of this, right? And just like live the Discovery Channel, right? That to me is, so that's an element too, because I contrasted that to where I was. And again, I was there 20 years. I had accomplished a lot. I'd like to think I accomplished a lot. I'd like to think I left it in good shape. But there was not much left for me to do that was in my vision, or that I felt was a challenge, or that, or that I could do with the resources or that kind of a thing in place.
That's
right?
actually why I left the state of Utah after 12 years. Because
Is that right?
I was to a point where I was getting ready to break something because it was running really well. We had a great fleet. We were an award-winning fleet. And that's when someone recruited me to go become a consultant.
Right.
And so I left there to become a consultant, was a consultant for about 3 years, learned a lot as a consultant, just as you had mentioned, because
Right.
we had gone out of these different fleet.
Sure.
And then because of what I've learned, I left consulting to go back into fleet management and apply everything I learned.
And then become a Hall of Fame fleet manager.
I had already been in fleet for 30 years. And imagine
At that point.
Can you think you can learn anything?
That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
I learned a lot.
30 years into it, and you learned a lot as 3 years as a consultant.
Exactly.
Because of all the exposure to other ways of doing things and other minds. And
That made my last 3 stops at Georgia and the Republic and Coke that much more much more efficient because I'd learned that much more.
that's really interesting.
If you're looking for fleet experts and former fleet managers sharing their best practices and advice, networking opportunities with hundreds of fleet professionals, and live, hands-on training sessions and workshops designed to help you take your fleet to the next level, then you need to register for RTA Connect 2025. It's the fleet event of the year. Join us September 22nd through 26th in Las Vegas and get the tips, tricks, and tools you need to help your fleet succeed. Visit www.rtafleet.com/connect to learn more.
Going into consulting, I think you'll agree with me, Mark. You kind of got you out of your comfort zone.
Definitely.
And that was for me too. But it was exciting and it was scary all at the same time, basically.
We're going to have to change the episode of this episode as to why these guys went to consulting. But to your point, another thing that's interesting is when you're a fleet manager for a long time in a place and you've built up your team, if we're being honest, right, you're the leader. So maybe you have administrative folks who are writing the memos and, folks working on this numbers for you and that and kind of thing. And you can let yourself, if you're not careful, get away from the sort of the daily use skills, let's say, right? The academic skills that are important for being a fleet manager. Getting it, like I talk to fleet managers who never touch their FMIS. We've talked about this recently, and maybe we'll do a whole nother show on that, but it's like, whoa, you need to be in that system, but it's easy to fall into that trap, I think, right? And so to your point of being a consultant, it's like, man, I used to be an Excel guru. I haven't touched Excel in that deep dive sort of a way, in years, right? Or PowerPoint, right? Because I had help doing that. I was using it, but I wasn't the, let's say the team's guru on it anymore, right? I had kind of handed off that role to these other folks. And then all of a sudden it was like, you better sharpen up those skills, boy. There's nobody here to help you. You got to do that stuff yourself.
That's a whole other podcast on the art of delegation, right?
Yeah, we should do one of those too. All right, so let's bring it back to this thing though. So first off, let me go back to, are there other, so we've hit some indicators. Help me out to kind of remember these. You're not feeling challenged.
Yep.
Leadership change,
or something's not right with leadership, right? Is a fair point. For whatever reason, you just don't enjoy going to work anymore. You're not having fun. Those are the three things. Did I mention? And then maybe there's just a great opportunity that you feel like you can't pass up, right? Hey, that's part of why I'm here. So left New York, left the family to pursue this opportunity out here in
journey, right?
In Glendale, Arizona. So are there any other sort of big hit items you want to touch? And then I want to bring it back to something else here in a second. But what else sticks out in your mind when you think about your careers that might be an indicator to someone that there's something there? And are there any sort of false step people could make? I mean, have you ever left someplace and regretted it? I don't know if you have that. If you haven't, it's okay. But, kind of, there are some people who've done that in their career, right? Where they left the place and they go, darn, that was a stupid decision. I wish I had stuck around. So how do we safeguard against that? Or what are your thoughts around that?
I may have had those thoughts at times, but I just don't pursue them.
Right.
Once I've made a decision, I just move on, and regrets are just a waste of time for me.
Okay.
So that's never been an issue for me.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, when I've left some of the jobs, it was like, was that the right decision? Because I kind of moved like you did, not as far. I moved from one middle of the Washington state to down towards the Oregon border. And, you kind of wonder, is this the right move for me and my family? So
right.
There's a little doubt when you make these decisions.
Yeah. Then I moved from Utah to Georgia. That was a huge move,
Huge. And then ultimately came
Georgia,
back
to Phoenix,
right.
and then back to Utah. So
yeah. So don't let that. I guess the message there to the folks listening is, it's natural to doubt.
Yeah.
Right. It's natural to have second thoughts and kind of wonder about it. You just got to fight through it.
Oh yeah,
kind
you
of
get
believe
some
in it.
buyer's remorse, basically, is what you get.
Right. Crap, I just spent $100,000 on a car. It's a lot of freaking money,
Well, the job is too. That's buyer's remorse because you're buying into a new organization.
Right. So let's flip this then, right? Because I started with this premise that if you're not getting to these shows, which essentially means education opportunities and network opportunities, self and professional development opportunities, then that, again, my premise is that's an indicator, or at least could be an indicator that there's something wrong and maybe it's time to consider or look, right? Again, I think there's such thing as a one-off year or a couple, I'm sure there are plenty of good justifications why you couldn't go that year. But if this is a thing, if you've been in that position for an extended time and the answer is always no, that strikes me as something is probably wrong with the culture of that organization. Or if it's private, they're having such money struggles, they can't afford to send you to a conference once every few years. They might have financial issues, and you might want to think about that too. But So what are your thoughts on that? Kind of hit me back. You said you agree with them. How would you interpret that? What are some other signs, on the reverse of it? How do you know that, hey, to get a sense of this is sort of coming, if that makes sense?
Well, I mean, it's common knowledge that TNT is the first thing that gets cut, travel and training.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and anywhere you work. But I think you have to have enough rapport with your boss to really carve that out and say, we have to train people.
Right.
If you get static in any operation, any organization, you're going to become unhappy. You're going to become inefficient.
Yep.
And the same with your people. If you're not moving up, you're moving out.
Right.
That's basically what you're on your way.
Especially in our industry. Look at the pace at which technology changes, right?
Well, and that's what I would say to people too. We talk a little bit about remorse. I mean, this is a really congenial, collective organization as a fleet. You meet people like you and I work together at a different job, and we worked on a different project together, and now theoretically you're my boss.
Right. You were my boss.
Yeah. So
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want to burn bridges. You don't want to, and I would say to people, if they leave their job, don't worry, because this group is small enough and you'll find a job within fleet.
Yeah.
If you've got the skills, you're going to be needed.
Right. So, because it's interesting, something you said to me way back when, because I come from a family that's very conservative in the, how could you leave one job without having another job set up? What is wrong with you? It's crazy. And you tell your story all the time. I remember my brother did that. He's a lawyer, and he was having ethical issues with the firm he was at, and he just went in and quit one day. He couldn't take it anymore. And, we all thought, oh my God, he's crazy. Something's wrong with him. We need to get him help, And, a little bit of life experience has taught me not, right? You kind of, whether or not you're God-fearing out there, but kind of have faith things are going to work out, sort of a thing. So that's interesting.
Well, I actually left another job for ethical issues. So I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that just tears your soul apart.
Right.
You can't go to work in that kind of an environment and be happy.
Right. So we're trying to dispel here that fear of leaving. And yet, again, I struggle with this, guys, because I also know we see the data. You both have done that. You've taught one-on-one with me, and one of the things we teach at NTEA is the change in work attitudes and the generational gaps, right? And you get the millennials, and word is still out on the Zers, but they're willing to change jobs every 2 years, and I think the average time for Xer was an 8-year, and the average time for boomers was 15 years in a position, right? So there does also seem to be something wrong in my mind intuitively. If you're changing jobs every a year or two, I don't know, maybe 2 is not, but this something might not be right there as well, right? Or no?
Well, for me, I know that 3 to 5 years is the right time.
Yeah.
Because if you're working on an operation like a fleet, you can turn that fleet around in 5 years. So, and you could do it as quick as 3 years.
Right.
Depending on if you know
right.
everything,
And
right?
you've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Continue with this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're looking at a time frame, that's the time frame, right?
Okay.
For me,
In our industry in particular.
Yeah, I mean, for
and
me,
really you're talking to fleet managers in this case.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, for me, I was that kid that grew up that probably needed Ritalin or something. I have ADHD. Right? I have a hard time focusing. I get bored very easy. So, I mean, that is one of my quirks in life. So once I accomplish something, I'm moving on.
Right.
So
when you say, because oftentimes you're getting, and this is true of any fleet manager, if you're being hired in a leadership role in fleet, in all likelihood, you're trying to turn something around or bring it to a next level or something of that nature. Now you've done that. If you can see other goals, I would argue that if you can see other great goals to aspire to once you've hit that 3, it might be good to stay because you have that thing to go to. But you're saying, hey, you got that fleet going great, everything's smooth. Challenge yourself, move on, go do it again. That's Steve's philosophy.
that's me.
Yeah,
not everybody, but that's me.
But that's you. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
mine were progressive. So at the state, I was, the shop manager, running the day-to-day shop. When I went to the utility company, now I'm the fleet and warehouse supervisor. So it's a step up. And then when I went to the county, I was the fleet manager. So it was a progressive move upward for me. So it was all stepping stones. I liked each of the places I worked. So.
Well, so there's a good takeaway there as well. So this is good. You guys, this is great because you had a track. You had a way to step in stone.
I did.
Right?
I did.
And Steve referred to earlier,
I've done the same thing.
You
actually.
know, yeah. But my point is there was a point in your career where there was somebody was thinking about it in the background, but there wasn't a clear track, right? So if you don't see a clear track, if there's no place for you to go, that
it's
might
time to
also be
leave.
and you've accomplished the things you need to accomplish, then boy, it's probably a pretty good indicator that something's going on.
You know, and I was young when I left my first job.
Right.
And I would always advise people to sit down with your boss and get
Talk
a
to him.
track.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I certainly didn't do that.
Right.
You know, because if I'd have done that, I would have known something different.
Right.
So
That's a good point. If they should be initiating that conversation, but if they're not,
yeah, you need to.
you need to, right? Don't sit on your hands and say they stink, you know, whatever. Maybe it's a learning moment for them as well. We're all improving. So that's interesting. So, all right, just to wrap this up here, back to the education piece. You mentioned training. Again, I started this with the conferences. You know, again, 1 year, budget's down, fine, that happens, but it can't be year after year. I think we agree with that. What's a good amount of training? Let's talk about some of the fleet positions, right? The common positions. And, you know, give me your quick hits on, hey, this is how much training you should be doing, or, you know, how you know it's about right, and, you know, the types of things that you should see. So I'm just going to kind of rapid fire with you guys. If you think the other guy missed something, feel free to chime in on it, all right? But let's start with you. What would mechanics look like? How much training should they be getting in a year? You know, what does it look
I
like?
like to see somewhere between 35 and 40 hours a year. And
Okay.
that's
Of technical training, right?
technical
Okay.
training, yes. Yeah, that's, you know, the industry's changing so quick. Technology is just going crazy. It's off the charts. So you got to get your technicians into the schools, but it has to be tailored to your fleet and the new equipment that you have coming into your fleet.
Okay, very good. So that and to emphasize technical training, we're not talking the soft stuff like your HR requires or you know
we're
any of that
talking
jazz,
hands-on.
or Excel or even your FMIS training, which is another thing. Right?
True, yes.
Right. Do we agree? FMIS, we should be doing
I
refresher
absolutely
training.
agree.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a competitive advantage. If you're not doing it, you're in trouble.
Right. All right. So what about parts? Like, is it similar? Is it the same, or is it something different? How much?
Yeah, I would say it's the same. I mean, it's harder to get. Direct,
harder to get,
Yeah,
yes.
directed training for your parts folks, but you can get it, and you should get it.
The parts supply companies will often provide training.
They need to get out there.
Yeah. So the same thing, about 35, 40 hours of technical training.
Yeah, I think that's the right ratio or right average for just about everybody.
Everyone. So from a time perspective, even if you're the fleet manager, you should be getting 40 hours of training in a year.
It's like 2% or a week out of the office.
Right.
So that's about the right training.
Okay.
Yeah, with my parts people, I actually sent them to an inventory management class.
Okay.
And they got a lot of good information out of it. So when they were able to come back and put that to work immediately in the parts room.
Right. And you got, ASC, obviously. You got EVT.
Yep.
So help me out with the acronyms. The ASC is what?
It's ASE,
ASC, yeah.
ASC.
Automotive Service Excellence.
Excellence. And the EVT is Emergency Vehicle
Emergency
Technician.
Vehicle Technician.
Okay. So they have those, they have all kinds of them for different specialties, different levels. And they actually have those for parts folks too, ASC, which
Yes,
is
they do.
which is
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
So there's some
They also have
examples there.
service rider training. ASE does.
Service rider, which is a big boy. The service riders get
heavy
skipped,
heavy duty.
right?
They have all kinds of disciplines.
The techs, even great fleets where the techs are getting out. I find that the service riders and the parts folks seem to be forgotten, and so that's kind of why I want to emphasize that. If you have admin staff, obviously you got your FMIS training, analytics folks. There's so many great like Coursera, and I'm not trying to plug any particular one, but Coursera and their competitors, University of Phoenix, others where you can get certificates in data analytics and things of that nature.
Well, even NAFA, you can get certificates in.
Yeah, of course, the CAFM.
Yep.
There's a few of them out there. Name
But
a couple of the fleet.
they've even broken that apart. You can get a certificate in asset management.
Right, exactly. Just that single
Yeah.
piece, or
Or
if
maintenance
that's all you touch, right?
Yeah, they
which
got
is great.
the the certified equipment manager,
Right.
and then you got the public works, the certified.
Public fleet. It's a CPFA.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of them. Now,
yeah.
the federal government does one through
They do.
NPMA. There's a lot out there. The equipment managers kind of in the construction world.
AEMP is
AEMPs, right?
CEM, yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot is the point.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, any final thoughts for me here, guys?
I think we beat that one up pretty good.
No, we did, yeah.
All right, so signing off. Thanks everyone for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at podcast@rtafleet.com. Questions for me, questions for the guys here. We'll make sure we get it forward over to them. New ideas on shows or topics you'd like for us to cover. Obviously, engage with us on LinkedIn. Interested in any of our products or services, are www.rtafleet.com. And looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks for listening or watching. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on LinkedIn or leave a review. Want to learn more about our fleet management software, Fleet 360? Check us out at rtafleet.com. If you want to learn more about having your fleet evaluated by our consulting team, go to fleetconsulting.com.